The story begins in a terrifying prison. There, we see a young man named James. He was a very simple, hardworking, and kind-hearted person. He treated everyone with respect, but for some reason, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. He was taken to the most dangerous prison in the city. As the guards were escorting him to his cell, he kept insisting that he was innocent. He begged them to let him go, but one of the officers got angry and punched him hard. He was immediately locked inside a cell. The next day, the prison was processing and registering new inmate. James's registration number was 1019. After a full-body inspection, he was taken to an interview room. There, he was asked a variety of questions. After that, he was transferred to his actual prison block. The inmates looked at him through the windows and laughed at him. Then, just as an officer locked James inside his cell, an alarm suddenly went off. The officer immediately ran toward another cell. There, an inmate named Bob had become seriously ill. Someone had injected a poisonous substance into his body. The officers rushed to save him. They questioned Bob's cellmate and asked what had happened to him. He replied, "The same thing that keeps happening over and over again, and you're already too late to save him." Meanwhile, James witnessed everything. At that moment, James realized just how difficult prison life was going to be for him. Then we are shown James's past. Back when James was just an ordinary young man, his life was going quite well. One morning, he ran into his friend Kevin. James learned from Kevin that the situation in their city was not very good. There was a major conflict going on between black and white people. Black citizens were protesting for their rights. In many places, people were still being judged based on the color of their skin. As a result, many black people were filled with anger and frustration. Because of this, the entire city had become extremely tense. The situation was especially dangerous at night. So Kevin told James to go straight home after finishing work. He warned him not to wander around at night. Instead, he should stay home and take care of his pregnant wife. Next, we are introduced to James's wife. Her name is Elisa. Their first child was about to be born. Because of that, they were both very happy. That day, James brought Elisa a beautiful gold necklace. He told her that she was going through so much for their child, so this was only a small gift for her. Elisa was very happy to receive it. Later that night, as usual, there was a lot of unrest throughout the city. The police were trying to control the situation. As a result, a major conflict broke out between the police and the black community. Fights and violent clashes were happening all over the city. Several gangs were taking advantage of the chaos. Among them was a particularly dangerous gang. The gang had 4 members in total. They had come to take advantage of the city's unrest and rob various jewelry stores. The leader of the gang was Jack. His 3 partners were Mission, Angel, and Seiko. They had a secret garage. Inside, they kept 2 sports bikes. They used those bikes to carry out their robberies. So that day, they rode their bikes through a remote side road and headed toward an expensive jewelry store. The store had a large collection of gold watches. As soon as they got there, they seized the opportunity and smashed the display glass. Then they quickly began taking all the expensive items they could find. However, the owner of the store was very brave. He tried to stop them all by himself. This made Jack furious. He pulled out a gun and shot the owner in the head. Then they fled the scene. Everyone was so distracted by the unrest and protests that the gang escaped as if nothing had happened. They headed straight to their secret garage. Once there, they hid their bikes and the stolen items. A few hours later, Jack took all the stolen goods to a woman and handed them over to her. Her name was Bayleaf. She was the dealer who handled these kinds of stolen items. However, Jack kept one watch for himself instead of giving it to her. After that, Jack and his crew stole another car. However, they had no idea that the police had already spread out across the city's roads. As they were escaping in the stolen car through a side road, they suddenly came across the police. They realized they were about to get caught, so they stopped the car and ran away on foot. Terrified, all 4 of them scattered in different directions. But within a short time, they were captured by the police. As a result, they were charged with car theft. They were also sentenced to several months in prison. Even while in prison, they continued to live recklessly. They spent their days using drugs. Before long, the day of their release arrived. Next, we see James's wife, Elisa. Elisa worked at a law office. Her main responsibility was counseling former inmates and helping them return to the right path after their release. Today, the person scheduled for counseling was Jack. That was why he had come to Elisa's office. If he failed to show up, it could lead to more trouble with the police. During the session, Elisa told Jack that no one is born a bad person. Instead, it is often circumstances that lead people down the wrong path. Every person's life contains both good and bad sides. But life becomes better when people choose to live honestly and put their lives in order. She told him that the path he had chosen would never lead to anything good. If he continued living that way, he would eventually waste his life in prison. She asked him if he really wanted to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Then she urged him to return to the right path. But Jack was actually a very bad person. Instead, he snapped at Elisa and said, "Who are you to lecture me like this? Don't you ever try to lecture me again?" After saying that, Jack got up and walked away. Just then, one of Jack's friends arrived. His name was Ace. He came to offer Jack another illegal job. Elisa quickly walked over to them and told them not to get involved in anything like that. She urged all of them to stay out of trouble and live decent lives. But Ace started insulting Elisa with offensive language. This made Elisa very angry. Ace then slapped Elisa hard across the face. After that, they all began saying horrible things to her. Elisa realized that staying there could put her in danger, so she quickly ran into her office and locked the door. Then she started calling James for help. Meanwhile, Jack and his crew kept demanding that Elisa come outside. They threatened to break down the door if she refused, but Elisa told them that she had already called the police. She said the police would arrive soon and arrest them. She also told them that she had evidence proving they had assaulted her. She reminded them that attacking a lawyer could lead to serious consequences. Hearing this, Jack and his friends became very nervous. Without wasting any time, they fled the scene. They later went to a restaurant. There, Jack told Mission that he was not going to let Elisa get away with this. He said that she had a lot of nerve threatening them, but Mission tried to calm him down. He told Jack that what was done was already done. There was no reason to take things any further. He reminded him that Elisa was pregnant. Besides, if they tried to hurt her, they could end up getting caught by the police themselves. But Jack refused to listen to any of it. A little later, Elisa was on her way home. She suddenly had the feeling that someone was following her. Elisa quickly got into her car, but at that moment, a masked man appeared. He began attacking her violently. He beat her so badly that she was covered in blood. Then he struck her in the stomach. The impact caused Elisa to lose consciousness. Sometime later, Elisa was taken to a hospital. James was sitting beside her. He was completely devastated. Elisa's condition had become very serious. Although she had regained consciousness, the doctors gave them terrible news. They explained that Elisa had suffered the most severe injuries to her abdomen. It was an extremely critical situation. The injury was in such a dangerous area that there was a heartbreaking possibility. Either Elisa would survive or the baby would survive. Because if they tried to save the baby, Elisa would develop an infection in her abdomen, and that infection could eventually turn into cancer. Hearing this, both James and Elisa were devastated. James had already made up his mind that he wanted Elisa to survive, but Elisa could not bring herself to give up their baby. This was their first child, and all of their dreams were built around this baby. James tried to explain to Elisa how important she was to him. He told her that if anything happened to her, he would not be able to go on living. But Elisa still did not want to lose her child. Both she and James were heartbroken. In the end, Elisa decided that she would keep the baby. No matter how many times James begged her to reconsider, she would not change her mind. However, a few days later, the baby died in her womb. The infection in Elisa's abdomen continued to spread. As a result, she had to undergo an abortion. The doctors also had to remove her ovary. Because of that, Elisa would never be able to become a mother again. But Elisa could not accept what had happened. She knew how many dreams James had about having a child, and she knew how badly he had wanted to become a father. Because of this, Elisa slowly began to lose her emotional stability. Even so, James always tried to stay by her side. He kept telling her that what had happened could not be changed. No matter how much they wanted to, they could not change their fate. But even after a long time had passed, Elisa was unable to return to normal. She slowly started distancing herself from James. Then one day she told him that she no longer wanted a married life. She felt that she would be better off living alone, because every time she looked at James, she was reminded of their baby. She felt that those memories would eventually drive her insane. So one day, Elisa left James and walked out of his life forever. Even though James wanted to stop her, he could not bring himself to do it because of her emotional condition. James himself seemed to be losing his mind from the pain. Then, crying uncontrollably, he began smashing all the things they had bought for their baby. To James, it felt like their baby was the reason the woman he loved had left him. After that, James decided that he would never forgive the people responsible for what had happened to his wife. So he contacted a friend of his named David. David had been working with a gang for a long time. James believed that if anyone could help identify the people who attacked Elisa, it would be David. After getting in touch with him, David looked into the matter. He eventually discovered that on the day Elisa was attacked, she had been conducting a counseling session with a gang leader named Jack. During that session, Elisa had gotten into an argument with Jack and his crew. Because of that, it was possible that Jack and his team were behind what happened to her. James then asked David where he could find Jack and his crew. He wanted to know where they were hiding. David told him that if he had asked a few days earlier, he might have been able to find them. But recently, they had robbed a store and killed its owner. As a result, the police had arrested them and sent them to prison. So there was nothing James could do now. Hearing this, James was deeply disappointed. He quietly said goodbye to David and walked away. However, as he walked down the street, he began coming up with another plan. After thinking things through, James headed straight to a place where protests were taking place. Just like every day, the police were there trying to control the situation. James walked directly up to a police officer and attacked him. He kept hitting the officer repeatedly. Because of this crime, the police immediately arrested him. But this had been James's plan all along. He wanted to get into prison somehow. That way, he could find Jack and his crew and make them pay for what they had done. His plan had worked perfectly. So even while being arrested, James was smiling. After that, he was taken straight to prison. On his very first day there, he met one of the warden. The man was extremely cruel, and James could tell that almost immediately. This was the first time James had ever been inside a prison. Everything about the place felt terrifying to him. Warden showed him around the facility. As James looked around, he saw many dangerous inmates. The warden then warned him that if he tried anything foolish, or if he refused to follow the rules, he might not make it out of the prison alive. The warden intimidated James with those threats and then sent him to his cell. There, James had a cellmate named Harry. Harry had a special talent. He could turn almost anything into a sharp weapon. Even so, Harry seemed like a good person to James. Before long, Harry approached James and started a conversation. He asked James why he had come to prison. James looked at him with anger in his eyes and replied that he was there for justice. However, Harry did not understand what he meant. The next morning, all the inmates gathered in the prison yard. Harry was there as well. Since Harry was the only person James knew in the prison, James went over and sat with him. Harry then began explaining how things worked inside the prison. He pointed out an inmate in the distance named Jack. Jack was standing there with his crew. At that moment, James realized that this was the same Jack and the gang that had destroyed his life. Harry told James that Jack and his team had only been in the prison for a few days. But even in that short time, they had become the leaders of the prison. Now, many of the inmates followed their orders. That was because Jack was an extremely powerful man. He had defeated some of the prison's biggest gangsters in fights. As a result, no inmate dared to challenge him. Everyone was afraid of him. On top of that, Jack had access to a large supply of drugs. Through his people, he managed to smuggle those drugs into the prison. Then he freely distributed them to influential inmates. That was how he kept many powerful people on his side. Harry also explained that there was another gang in the prison. They were actually much more powerful than Jack's group, but despite their strength, they never used their power for bad purposes. In fact, they were a Muslim gang. They believed that injustice and oppression against others were sin. Because of that, they had never wronged anyone. As a result, most of the inmates respected and admired them. Many prisoners had even been inspired by their good character. Some of them had converted to Islam and joined their group. Harry kept talking about all these things in his own way, but James was focused only on Jack and his crew. He was already planning how to punish them. He kept thinking about how he could give them the harshest punishment possible before killing them. Meanwhile, Jack had also noticed James, but he did not recognize him, so he paid very little attention to him. Later that afternoon, Harry was taking a shower. Just then, one of Jack's men, Angel, approached him. Angel said, "I heard you've made a lot of people around here happy. Why don't you make me happy too? Otherwise, my team and I won't let you off easy." Harry was a very timid person. Because of that, many inmates had taken advantage of him in terrible ways. But he had never found the courage to stand up for himself. And today, the same thing happened once again. That night, we see the warden. Away from everyone's sight, he went to Jack's cell. It became clear that he had a very close relationship with Jack and his crew. That was because Jack supplied him with large amounts of drugs for free. As a result, they spent many nights together using drugs inside the cell. They would take drugs, party, and enjoy themselves all night long. Since the warden was completely under Jack's influence, Jack had gained a tremendous amount of power inside the prison. The next morning, we see James exercising. He was constantly training himself to become stronger. His goal was to prepare himself for a fight against Jack's gang. Just then, an inmate named John approached. John was furious with Angel. He was even trying to stab him with a knife. A few days earlier, John had given Angel a large amount of money. In return, Angel had promised to provide him with drug, but Angel had taken the money and never delivered the drug. Instead, he told John that he was not going to give him anything. So when John came to confront him about it, Jack and his crew immediately turned on him. They began beating him mercilessly. They beat him until he was covered in blood, and the prison warden stood there watching the entire thing. Through tears, John told the warden everything. He explained how badly Jack and his crew had wronged him, but the warden told John that he needed to apologize to Jack immediately. He also said that from now on, John should do whatever Jack told him to do. Hearing that, James was completely shocked. He had just witnessed a clear injustice with his own eyes, yet the warden was taking the side of the people responsible for it. At that moment, James realized that the warden was also working with Jack's group. After that, Jack and his crew continued beating John while laughing and celebrating. The warden seemed to enjoy watching it all. Eventually, John was beaten so badly that he lost consciousness. They then dragged him back to his cell and left him there. Meanwhile, James could barely tolerate the injustice happening right in front of him. He was furious, so he poured all of his anger and frustration into his training. He worked harder than ever because he wanted to become the strongest person in the prison. As time passed, several days went by. James trained every day while thinking about Elisa. Those memories only made the anger inside him grow stronger. The rage, pain, and heartbreak he carried kept him from sleeping properly. As a result, he would even stay up at night to continue training. One day, while walking through the prison, James entered a different section. It was the area controlled by the prison's most powerful Muslim gang. They were all preparing for prayer. However, James noticed something that surprised him. Mission was there. He had left Jack's gang and joined the Muslim group. Mission had come to realize that a person could never truly find peace through wrongdoing. A peaceful life required choosing the right path, and now he had decided to do exactly that. Mission was also the same person who had warned Jack not to go after Elisa. He had reminded Jack that Elisa was pregnant. Deep down, Mission had always felt guilty about his actions, and that guilt had eventually led him toward a better life. When James understood all of this, he chose to forgive Mission. He even spoke to him in a friendly and respectful manner. At first, Mission had been one of James's targets. In fact, James had come there specifically looking for him. But after seeing how much he had changed, James decided to leave the area and walk away. Next, James set his sights on one of Jack's associates, a man named Ace. For a long time, he secretly followed Ace and watched his movements. Eventually, Ace went into his cell. At that moment, there was no one else inside. All the other inmates were outside. James decided to take advantage of the opportunity. He put on a pair of gloves. That way, he would not leave any fingerprints behind. Then James walked straight into the cell. Without hesitation, he attacked Ace. Over the past several days, James had trained so hard that he had become much stronger. As a result, Ace was no match for him. James began beating him relentlessly. Before long, Ace was covered in blood. Then James said to him, "Do you recognize me? You people attacked a woman named Elisa. I'm her husband. Why did you do that to us?" Why did you destroy our beautiful life?" Ace immediately admitted his mistakes and begged for forgiveness. He said that slapping Elisa had been a terrible mistake, but he insisted that he was not the one who attacked her on her way home. According to him, someone else had carried out that attack. He begged James to forgive him this one time, but James was so consumed by his desire for revenge that he could no longer think clearly. It was as if he was no longer himself. In a blind rage, he kept beating Ace until he killed him. Afterward, James quickly left the area. Within a short time, news spread throughout the prison that someone had murdered an inmate named Ace. However, no one could imagine that a quiet and harmless-looking man like James could have done such a thing. Meanwhile, James returned to his cell in a state of panic. He tried to hide the gloves he had used, but at that moment, Harry walked in. The fear on James's face immediately gave everything away. Harry realized that James was the one who had killed Ace, and now he was trying to hide the evidence. Harry looked at him and said, "James, I never would have imagined that someone like you could do something like this. Why would you do this to another inmate?" James remained silent for a moment. Then he said, "Do you remember what I told you on my first day here? I told you that I came to this prison for justice. What Jack and his people did to me deserves punishment." Harry then asked what they had actually done. So James told him the entire story from the beginning. He explained what had happened to his wife and their baby because of Jack and his crew, and how his beautiful life had been completely destroyed. After hearing James's entire story, Harry felt deeply saddened as well. So he told James that he would not tell anyone about what had happened. But at that very moment, Jack and his crew appeared outside their cell. Jack told James to follow him. They then took James with them. Jack looked at him and said, "Did you really think we wouldn't find out about you? My people have been watching you since this morning. They saw you following Ace. So after Ace was killed, we knew right away that no one but you could have done it." Then Jack continued, "Do you know why we brought you here? Because we want to thank you," he added. "That traitor deserved exactly what happened to him. Even though he was part of our crew, he gave all the evidence against us to the police. That's why I'm sitting in prison right now. I was planning to kill him myself, but you made my job easier." "I don't know what kind of problem you had with him," Jack said, "but I'm impressed by your fighting skills. You gave him a harsh punishment before killing him. Since you've helped me, if you ever need anything, just let me know." After that, they let James go. Meanwhile, James continued planning how he would eliminate them one by one. Even Harry had started helping him. Since Harry could make a sharp weapon out of almost anything, he taught James how to make one. That way, getting his revenge would be a little easier. Soon, James managed to make a very thin and sharp weapon with his own hands. He made it small enough to carry with him at all times. After that, James continued moving forward with his plan. One day, he once again entered the section controlled by the Muslim gang. This time, he wanted to learn more about Mission. He wanted to know whether Mission had truly changed or if he was simply using the Muslim gang for his own benefit. However, Mission's behavior and actions did not seem suspicious at all. Eventually, James approached him and asked why he had suddenly left Jack's crew. Mission then explained that he had never truly wanted to live a life of crime in the first place. But eventually, his financial situation became so bad that he felt he had no choice but to join Jack's crew and take part in robberies. However, he never wanted to be involved in crimes like murder. But because of Jack, he ended up getting dragged into those activities. Once he realized who Jack and his crew really were, he chose to leave the gang on his own. After that, he joined the Muslim group. Besides, he had a wife and a young daughter waiting for him at home, so he wanted to live an honest life from that point forward. He wanted to return to his family. After hearing all this, James realized that Mission had truly changed. Later that day, James went to the restroom to take a shower. His cellmate Harry was there as well. And just like every other day, Angel was harassing him. Even though Harry repeatedly begged him to stop and leave him alone, Angel continued tormenting him. Just as Angel was about to hit him again, James walked in. James warned him and said that if he ever laid a hand on Harry again, he would make him pay for it. Hearing that, Angel became furious. He immediately started fighting James. James tried to kill Angel with the sharp weapon he had made, but Angel was much stronger than he expected. As a result, James struggled to keep up with him in the fight. At one point, Angel even tried to gouge out James's eye, but James barely managed to escape from his grip. With great effort, he shoved Angel and knocked him to the floor. However, during the fight, James dropped his sharp weapon. Angel picked it up and was about to attack James with it, but at that exact moment, he slipped and crashed to the ground. He struck his head extremely hard. Blood immediately began pouring from the injury. James then left the area with Harry. That night, Harry told James that there had been no reason for him to risk his life for him. He said that if Angel had killed him that day, he never would have been able to forgive himself. So James should stop putting himself in danger and focus on his mission instead. But James replied that what he had done was part of his mission. He said that he would destroy Jack and his gang one by one. The next day, Angel's body was discovered in the bathroom, and within moments, the news spread throughout the entire prison. Once again, someone had been murdered inside the prison. As a result, inmates from all over the prison came to see Angel's body. Even Jack could not understand who would have wanted to kill Angel. However, after looking at the condition of the body, Jack felt that Angel might have simply fallen and died from the injury. Meanwhile, James was already planning to eliminate the rest of them. While everyone was distracted by Angel's death, another member of Jack's crew entered a bathroom. James noticed him. He immediately started moving in that direction. As he walked, he kept telling himself that he was a psycho now, and psychos showed no mercy or compassion. Even when they were weak, they could still kill without hesitation. Thinking these thoughts, James headed straight for the bathroom. Consumed by rage, he attacked Jack's man from behind. James wanted to eliminate all of Jack's associates before going after Jack himself. There was a reason for that. If Jack had no one left to support him, he would not be able to stand against James alone. Then James could make him suffer slowly before killing him. So James brutally murdered this man as well. Afterward, he quickly left the area. Then, still burning with anger, he went straight to Jack. James looked at him and said, "Do you recognize me now? I've killed all your men. Do you know why? Because you and your crew destroyed my life. You attacked my wife for no reason. My baby died. My wife lost the ability to ever become a mother again, and in her pain and grief she left me. Now tell me, what kind of punishment do you think you deserve for something like that?" For the first time, Jack seemed a little afraid. Looking at James's face, he could tell that something had changed. Jack then said, "You've got it all wrong. I wasn't the one who attacked your wife. Mission did it. He's the one who's a member of that Muslim gang now. I actually told him not to touch that pregnant woman, but he didn't listen to me, and now he's pretending to be a good person." But James refused to believe him. He defended Mission and insisted that Mission was genuinely a good man at heart. He believed that Jack was the real person responsible for everything. Just then, another member of Jack's crew appeared behind James. Without warning, he attacked James from behind. Jack immediately took advantage of the situation and joined in. James could not keep up against both of them at once. Together, they beat him mercilessly until he was covered in blood. James was on the verge of losing consciousness. Just then, the prison warden arrived. The warden and his men took James to an isolation cell. This was the place where the prison's most dangerous inmates were kept. Once they got him there, they stripped him completely naked. Then the warden and his men treated James in a cruel and degrading manner. Meanwhile, Jack went straight to the section controlled by the Muslim gang. There, he approached Mission and said that he might not have much time left to live. Jack explained that the woman they had confronted, Elisa, had a husband named James, and the two murders that had recently taken place in the prison were committed by him. Jack also told Mission that he had informed James that Mission was the one who attacked Elisa. Because of that, James might come after him next. So if Mission wanted to stay alive, he should return to Jack's crew. But Mission calmly replied that he was not afraid of anything. He said that the biggest mistake of his life had been working with Jack's gang. Other than that, he had never harmed anyone. In fact, he had never even spoken to Elisa. So he had no reason to be afraid. And even if it cost him his life, he would never join Jack's gang again. After hearing that, Jack threatened him and walked away. Mission then stood beside the members of the the Muslim gang and offered his prayer. As he prayed, he felt deep remorse for all the mistakes he had made in the past. Meanwhile, James was still being subjected to severe abuse. He was in terrible pain. A short time later, a female warden arrived at the isolation unit. She was conducting a routine inspection throughout the prison. When she saw James in such a badly injured condition, she immediately began treating him. After talking with him, she quickly realized that James was a simple and honest man. As she listened to his story, she learned the truth about the prison warden. She discovered how he constantly abused weaker inmates. She also learned how he worked alongside powerful criminal gangs and effectively ruled the prison through corruption. Because of that, the female warden decided to report everything to the prison's main administration. When the warden found out about this, he immediately began thinking of a way to save himself. Meanwhile, the female warden arranged for James to be released from the isolation cell. James eventually returned to his cell. When his cellmate Harry saw the condition he was in, he felt terrible for him. Harry began taking care of James. He comforted him and told him that he would recover soon. But just then, Mission came to visit James. As soon as he arrived, Mission apologized for everything that had happened. He expressed regret for all of his past actions. He also told James the truth about who had attacked his wife. The attacker was not Mission, it had been Jack. After learning this, James became even more furious with Jack. Now he began planning to get rid of both Jack and the warden who had been protecting him. But at that moment, Harry tried to stop him. He said, "James, don't get involved in this anymore. You've already seen what they did to you. If you start killing people just like they do, then what difference will there be between you and them?" James became emotional and replied, "The difference is that they kill innocent people. I'm killing monsters who only look like people. Even if I have to die to stop them, I'll do it. And if you don't support me, that's fine." But after understanding everything James had been through, Harry told him that he would stand by his side. He promised to help him complete his plan however he could. Later that afternoon, all the inmates were gathered together for lunch. Suddenly, Harry came up with an idea. He believed it could finally expose Jack and the warden. Harry climbed onto a table and shouted to get everyone's attention. Almost every inmate in the prison was there. Even the Muslim gang was present. Harry then began telling everyone what had really happened to him over the years. He described how the powerful inmates had abused him. He talked about the terrible treatment and constant torture he had endured. He also revealed that the warden had taken James into the isolation cell, stripped him naked, and treated him in a degrading and abusive manner. Harry then asked how justice could ever exist in a prison if the warden himself behaved like that. He explained that the warden was working with Jack and his gang only because of the drugs they supplied him. Because of this arrangement, Jack and his crew were never punished for their crime. Meanwhile, innocent and defenseless inmates continued to suffer abuse day after day, but no one was speaking out against any of it. Harry shouted, "How much longer is this kind of injustice going to exist in this world?" Then he turned toward the Muslim gang and said, "Even though you've had the power to stop things, you've always chosen to live peacefully and focus on your worship. Maybe you never knew how much abuse inmates like us have been suffering, but now you do. Now you've seen how much injustice they've been committing behind closed doors." He continued, "You've seen how they abuse their power and how far they've gone in their actions. Are you still going to stay silent? And if you remain silent, then what value does your worship have if you don't stand against injustice?" Hearing Harry's words, the members of the Muslim gang became furious. They were filled with anger and outrage. At that moment, the warden arrived and tried to stop Harry, but the members of the Muslim gang, along with many of the other inmates, suddenly turned on him. They began attacking both the warden and Jack. Everyone started beating them mercilessly. James immediately took advantage of the chaos. As memories of Elisa flooded his mind, he began attacking Jack with all the rage he had been carrying inside. He could no longer control himself. And he wasn't just attacking Jack. He was also going after the warden and one of Jack's remaining associates. Before long, the entire prison descended into chaos. After receiving reports of the disturbance, a police response team arrived to restore order. They tried to calm everyone down. One by one, They began escorting the inmates back to their cell, but James refused to let Jack go. He wanted to finish him once and for all. So while everyone else was distracted, James continued chasing after him. Jack was desperately trying to escape. Eventually, James caught up with him, but by then, Jack was standing there holding a baton. The moment James got close, Jack swung the baton and struck him with tremendous force. Then he kept hitting him over and over again. James felt all the strength leave his body. He could barely move. He couldn't even find the chance to get back on his feet. Finally, after beating him relentlessly, Jack threw James down a flight of stairs. Jack beat him until he was completely covered in blood. By that point, James no longer had the strength to even move. Seeing that James was helpless, Jack walked toward him to finish him off once and for all. First, he drove the baton in his hand into one of James's eyes. Then, just as Jack was about to kill him, James struck back. He plunged a weapon into Jack's stomach. It was the same weapon he had made with Harry's help. As a result, Jack died right there on the spot. James began shouting in triumph. At last, his long-awaited goal had been fulfilled. He had finally given the man responsible for so much injustice the punishment he deserved. By then, the police team had arrived and taken James away from the scene. Several days passed after the incident. In the present day, we see James again. He had lost one of his eyes, but despite that, he was finally happy. The inmates of the prison had chosen him as their new leader. He now worked to ensure justice for every prisoner in the facility, and Harry served as his closest ally. Because James was such a good-hearted person, all the inmates respected and admired him. Everyone in the prison cared about him. James also worked alongside the Muslim gang and took part in positive and meaningful efforts throughout the prison. As for the old warden, he had been removed from his position and taken out of the prison. Meanwhile, Mission's sentence eventually came to an end. The day of his release finally arrived. Outside the prison, his wife and daughter were waiting for him. The moment Mission saw them, he became overwhelmed with emotion. Filled with happiness, he reunited with his family. And with that beautiful ending, the story comes to a close. So what did you think of this story? And if you'd like to see more prison movies like this, be sure to let me know in the comments below the video. That's all for today's video. I'll see you in another new video soon. Until then, take care, stay safe, and stay healthy.